lesson number 9 on year 3 of science. We are going to talk today about cellular fermentation and other metabolic pathways. Okay, so let's get going on to that. Let's see, we have the review and attention activity by Josh. So, Josh, okay, could you help us very fast review the cellular respiration process that we have learned about in the last 2 lessons? Take us through that.
Yeah.
How does that work?
Can you hear me?
Yes. Go ahead.
Last lesson we learned about cellular respiration and how they turn it into ATP. And during it is ATP with 3 P's, but then when it goes to a cell, it gives one of the phosphates towards the cell, which energizes it, gives it ATP, and then it goes back and recharges itself in the mitochondria.
Excellent. Yes. How many sub-processes are here in the cellular respiration process?
What?
How many parts to the process of cellular respiration are there? Okay, it's what I'm showing here on the screen.
There are 4 of them.
There are 4 of them, exactly. What are they? What do you know about each one of them? What can you tell me?
That they all have their different unique parts that Heavenly Father created and made them work in the smallest ways in order to make the main energy for our bodies.
Yes, excellent. Yeah. Do you remember where does glycolysis happen?
Outside the mitochondria.
That's right. Very, very good. Outside the mitochondria. Okay. And the other 3 processes, where do those happen?
Inside the mitochondria.
Inside the mitochondria. Very good. Very good. And which of these processes, do you remember which of these processes actually uses the oxygen in order to finish the process?
Oxidation of pyruvate.
So the oxidation of pyruvate uses some of it, okay, but most of it is on this last step, okay?
The electron transport chain.
The electron transport chain, exactly. Very good. Very, very good. Okay. And so if there is oxygen, the process here inside the mitochondria happens. If there's no oxygen, they cannot happen. They stop. Okay. So that is very, very interesting. Okay. Very good. So in the processes also, we talk about kind of some, these are called cofactors or, intermediate chemicals or enzymes that are also used in the process. And they are these 5, let me see here, NAD, NADH, they work together, they basically pair each other, and then AFD and AFDH2, they work together. And then there's another chemical that is called acetyl-CoA, all right? Let me see. So so those are chemicals that are used kind of in intermediate steps. So in this lesson, we are going to learn what happens when we run out of glucose and what happens when we don't have enough oxygen. Okay. So let's see, Braden, you asked if you still want me to do the academic concept. Yes, I want you to do academic concept number 4. Okay. All right. Okay. And Josh, were you able to watch these videos?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So what did you see? What do you remember seeing in these videos?
I remember seeing they were like together, and then the guy behind him just sprinted ahead and won the race.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Uh-huh. So they go for quite a while, okay, until they get, you know, kind of to the last part. Let's see what happens here. Okay, so they are here, and see now how fast. This is at the end of a full marathon, okay? So they have run 26 miles already, but see how fast they are going. They are going like if this is just the beginning of the race. Okay.
Yeah.
The Spanish guy outsprints him, the English man, and wins the race. Okay, see what happens now. This is the part that I'm kind of interested. Why do you think that they are on the floor?
I think they're on the floor because they need to relax and cool down. So
And cool down. Uh-huh. Okay. Aubrey says helps bring oxygen. Okay. You know, I really think that, see the British, it's interesting because the Spanish one that won the race feels better than the British one that couldn't hold it. Okay. You know, and now here come the other racers, you know, they don't, not a whole lot of effort. But did you see the difference in the reaction between the ones that sprinted and went without oxygen and the ones that were just able to finish with oxygen? Okay, so that is kind of what we want to see here.
And the other video?
Go ahead. Mm-hmm.
The other video, they just run out of energy before they finished. So.
Mm-hmm. What is the difference between these runners and the other runners?
These runners probably used all their energy at the beginning.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So what is going on here? See, the reaction is very different. See that now they are almost not able to control their bodies. Okay. These two runners especially, they are just having a hard time making their muscles work. Okay. Yeah. Why do you think that happens? It is looking funny, but it's not very funny to be there. He just crossed the line, this one. Okay. So today we are going to actually look at what are the differences here. She crossed the line. Okay, she put the hand across the line and is taken. All right. So you see that in the case here of the guys sprinting to the finish, they needed oxygen. They ran out of oxygen. But in the case of these other guys here, they ran out of something else. What do you think that they ran out of? Josh?
Energy.
Mm-hmm. They ran out of energy. Okay. Connor says water. Jen says glucose. Natasha says they might have used much energy. Jacob says energy, the cells use the ATP, so they didn't have any more ATP at that point. It could have been a combination between dehydration and lack of glucose, and that is what we call in running, okay, we call that hitting the wall, okay? And it's a term that basically describes what happens when the muscles run out of glycogen, okay? So it's not that they were not breathing, it wasn't lack of oxygen in the case here of these guys, because they were breathing still and they were not going very fast. It was a very different case. Okay. They were just at a point where they couldn't, their muscles stopped functioning, okay? All right? So today we are going to learn what happens in the case here, what happens in the case when the body runs out of oxygen, and what happens in the case when the body runs out of glycogen. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
All right, excellent. Thank you, Josh. Very good job. Maria, would you like to take us to academic concept 1? Okay. All right. Oh, Maria, let me see. Sorry, I need to unmute you. I forgot. Okay, there you go. You are unmuted now.
Thank you.
Thank you. Sorry.
So for concept 1, we are going to learn about under the anaerobic conditions, which means without oxygen, and the cells can still produce ATP by doing fermentation, which means converting sugars to acids or alcohol to gas instead of cellular respiration. And in the research it said that with the sprinters we saw what happened and what happens when cellular activity continues without enough oxygen. And if we continue to study the cellular respiration, we learn that oxygen is the final acceptor of hydrogen electrons, and without oxygens, the electrons, the electron transport chain stops, and if it stops, the mitochondria can't continue producing all these ATP. And when that happens, cells can only continue producing the ATP using glycolysis, which makes small amounts of ATP in the cytoplasm, but it doesn't need oxygen like the others do. And but it may be, what was funny is at the end is but it may be just enough to finish the sprint. And then it says, I learned that even glycolysis has a limit. It's divided into 2 pyruvates, and the NAD is changed into NADH so that it can produce the 2 ATP. And when it's changed into that, then glycolysis stops, and if it does, then the cell would stop functioning too.
That's right. So that is the problem. This slide shows what is the end of glycolysis. We get 2 ATPs, but what happens if all the NAD, the NAD is transformed into NADH, then we are out of total luck, then even glycolysis stops. Okay. So what would be the only solution for the cell to continue producing energy?
To continue, it would have to, the NADH would have to go back to NAD so that the cell can continue using glycolysis.
That's right. And there are two processes to do that. They are called fermentation. Okay, and so that is what we are going to see here next. Okay, what are these processes of fermentation? Okay, so you see that in the case here of the sprinters, why do you think that the British sprinter couldn't keep up with the Spanish one? Okay. What do you think that might have happened at the cellular level?
Oh,
Maria?
okay.
Sorry.
I think what might have happened is the cell might have gone to its limit. And when it goes to that limit, then it has to change things around to produce the ATP. And I think maybe the other racer might have had more time, or he had more at this point.
Better conditioning, better training. Okay. Yeah, something that kick off the fermentation process faster for him. Okay. Excellent. Thank you, Maria. Thank you very much. All right. So, Nathan, would you like to do here the next one? Okay. The academic concept 2 and 3.
Sure. I am not as prepared on 2 as I am 3 because I didn't know they went together. But
okay, let's do this. Let's do this. How about if I explain 2 and then you do 3? Would that be okay?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's try that. All right. So in academic
I can help a little
concept 2,
move too.
Oh, okay. So I'll ask you questions. Keep your mic open, and I'll ask you questions and everything, and see, if we can work it together. All right?
Okay.
So the academic concept 2 says that animals and bacteria can do lactic acid fermentation to continue doing the glycolysis process. All right? And so there are 2 types of organisms that do lactic acid fermentation, and they are animals and bacteria. And we do that all the time, okay? As humans, we do that lactic acid fermentation all the time. Usually it's when we are under conditions with no oxygen, okay, whether we are sprinting, or if we are holding our breath underwater, something like that. Or there may be some cells that don't have mitochondria. Can you think of any cells that don't have mitochondria? Okay, so that is an interesting question. In the video, this professor actually explains the process very well, really. I really like how he does the process, explains how it is important there for glycolysis to continue, okay? And what happens if there's no oxygen, the processes inside the mitochondria just stop and would not be able to happen. And so we have to do another process, and that is the process here of glycolysis. So in this slide, he is explaining the process there of glycolysis, how the glucose molecule is divided into 2 pyruvates. And see the pyruvate, how many carbons does the pyruvate have, Nathan?
How many? Wasn't it 32 ATP?
Oh, the
32.
whole process. So the whole process of respiration
no, the
produces
carbon,
32.
they have 2 ATP. The whole thing rounds up to about 32 ATP.
Yeah, so glycolysis produces 2 ATPs, and how many carbons? So we started with 6 carbons here in glucose, and then when they get divided into the pyruvate, how many carbons does each pyruvate have?
Wasn't it like 3?
3, exactly, yes. So 2 molecules there, and then with the splitting here of the glucose molecule and the synthesis of the pyruvate, we obtain the 2 ATP, okay? And also we have that 1 molecule of NAD plus is transformed, is basically gets a hydrogen, okay, here from the glucose, and it gets converted into NADH, all right? And that is the process there of glycolysis. So let's see, let's continue and see what happens next, okay? So here it explains that the process of fermentation are 2 different paths: lactic acid fermentation and alcoholic fermentation. So we are going to talk first about lactic acid fermentation. Okay, let me see if I get here. All right. So the process of lactic acid fermentation is basically converting the pyruvate, getting the hydrogen back from here from the NADH into another molecule that is called lactate. And the lactate, can you see that is very, very similar to pyruvate? The only difference is this other oxygen, this other hydrogen here. You see that hydrogen there? That is the hydrogen that comes from NADH. That H now is lost, okay, and is now the pyruvate is converted into lactate. That is another form of lactic acid. That is why this is called lactic acid fermentation. And the NADH, when it loses the hydrogen, gets back to NAD plus, and then this NAD can go back to another glucose molecule and do glycolysis again. And so that is how the NAD plus and NADH are recycled all the time, okay? And so the glucose can be broken down first into pyruvate, then they get fermented into lactate, and the end result is that we can continue producing the 2 ATP in glycolysis, okay? That is the process of lactic acid fermentation, okay? All right. So Nathan, here in academic concept 3, okay, what can you tell me about this?
So the concept is acids can do short bursts of intensity after doing lactic acid fermentation, and lactic acid fermentation it's a, I forgot what part of the body it is, but then it works together with other muscles, and it pumps oxygen and energy into your body so you can last longer. And then
okay.
As I was researching for this, I was thinking about how certain foods and certain stuff can help you last longer. Like when you go work out or go do something exercise, people say it's always important to have pasta because that has a lot of carbohydrates that can give you energy, and can help you last longer. But here are some other ones. Vitamin C helps you a lot with energy. So does vitamin E and carotene. I can't pronounce it.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's zinc.
So if you are going to do some strenuous exercise, it is important to have all the nutrients that you will need. Okay.
Yeah, and I found this.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
Hmm?
I found this next one pretty interesting. That garlic helps you with exercise. It says that one of the most flavorful foods that boosted your immune system. It multiplies your white cells and increases the efficiency of your antibody production. Then also hot foods that can help you from getting sick. So and also so it says that when athletes breathe hard at the end of a race, or and when people are breathing hard after they do something, that means that they burned all the calories or most of the calories they have in their body, and so they're more tired. So it's always good to make sure you have enough carbohydrates in you so you can last longer.
Yes.
And then you have carbohydrates and oxygen can be processed more easily during your things.
During the exercise.
Yeah.
Do you know, so we mentioned here that animals and bacteria can do lactic acid fermentation. Do you know any foods that we consume that do fermentation, that do lactic acid fermentation?
I always thought that pasta does that.
Not pasta. No, pasta is carbohydrate.
Oh.
Okay. All right. So what food is produced that something that we eat, okay, that is actually the result of the lactic acid fermentation process?
Let me see if I knew I had something like that. Let me check my notes.
Yeah. Anna says with a question mark, she says yogurt. Okay. And Liberty says yogurt and cheese.
I'm almost there.
Yeah.
My computer's being really slow.
Oh, no problem. Okay. So that's okay. That's okay, Nathan. So yes, yogurt and cheese, some cheeses, okay, are made actually by bacterial lactic acid fermentation. Okay. So that is a very interesting thing. Okay. So milk must be a big part then. Yes.
It's lentils.
Milk. Sorry?
I think I found that lentils was part of that.
Lentils. I never heard of that. Okay. There's a very famous Korean food called kimchi. Okay. And then a German food called sauerkraut. Have you ever had that? Have you ever had a sauerkraut? Okay. Aubrey says yes. And Jen says, I love kimchi. Yes. So all those are made with lactic acid fermentation. Okay. So it's really interesting that we have a lot of different foods that are made with lactic acid fermentation. So, okay, good job, Nathan. So Aubrey says, I'm hungry now. Okay. So Maria asked a question, says, lactic, does that come from lactose? Is in like milk and dairy? Yes. So milk has a sugar, okay, called galactose, okay, galactose, okay, that is a sugar that is in milk, that and galas, okay, is actually the Greek for milk. Lactose is the Latin for milk, all right? So the lactic acid that is talking about in the video here, you know, doing lactic acid fermentation, all right, and showing here the molecule that is, you know, oh, no, not this one. No, I went in too much. Okay, let's see this one here, the lactate and lactic acid. That is named that way because it originally was first observed by bacteria fermenting milk in the process of making yogurt and making cheese and things like that. So that is where the name came from, okay? So, Braden, would you like to do academic concept 4? Okay, Braden, you there? Unmute yourself. Excellent.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yep. All right. So academic concept 4 is yeast can do alcoholic fermentation to continue doing the glycolysis process. I didn't get to watch the video above, but I know they homemade bread. Yeast is used in homemade bread to make the bread rise. Like this, it's what gives the bread its shape and stuff. And so like the yeast is almost like when you get it in the package, it's almost like a living thing that you just put in the freezer. Then when you mix it with the bread and stuff, then when you cook it, it helps rise the bread.
Mm-hmm.
So
okay, what type of organisms are yeast? Are they animals? Are they bacteria, plants? What do you think?
I'm sorry, I didn't catch that.
What type of microorganism is yeast?
Oh, well, it's definitely not like a mammal or anything, but
no.
Yeah, yeah, it's kind of obvious because it's no fur or anything, but it's a Saccharomyces.
Saccharomyces.
I think that's how you say it.
Saccharomyces cerevisiae.
It's like
yes. It's a very long name. So
yeah, it's a
Saccharomyces cerevisiae is the most common type of yeast for bread. Yeah. So I have a question. Do you think that they are eukaryotes, prokaryotes? Yes.
I think
remember when we were doing
just off the top of my head. I think just off the top of my head, it's going to be the pro.
So yeast actually they are eukaryotes. They have a cell nucleus. Okay. All right. So they are eukaryotes, and so they are not bacteria because the bacteria are prokaryotes. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And they are part of the fungi family. All right. So very interesting. So yeast are fungi. Okay. Let me see if I go. let's go and see one of these yeast. Okay, a picture of yeast. So these are a picture of the Saccharomyces cerevisiae, okay, and the yeast, and you see those little dots in there. Those are the nucleus of the yeast, okay. So these are buds, and they are basically dividing. The yeast cell are dividing. These are some of the few eukaryotic organisms that are unicellular. They just live kind of by themselves, okay? So we put this into our bread, okay? All right. So this is, and what then do they do in the bread?
What do they do in the bread?
Yes. What happens? What is the process here of alcoholic fermentation? You mentioned that they make it rise. Okay.
Yeah. When you mix it with the bread, it's mixed in there, and then when you put it in the oven, it gets really hot, and it starts to it converts carbohydrates to carbon dioxide for the it just converts it converts the carbon dioxide to the I'm just trying to read my shorthand notes. It's shorthand isn't very good.
No problem.
Yeah. So for baking and with bread, it converts the food or the fermentable sugars in the dough into carbon dioxide, which then causes the dough to expand, and sometimes it forms little pockets or bubbles, as it says in the academic concepts number 4, where it says where do the bubbles come from? It's because of the reactions to the fermentable sugars in the dough that it creates into carbon dioxide.
Exactly, that's right. So the bubbles and what makes the bread rise is the process here of the yeast actually expelling carbon dioxide. Good job. Yeah. Okay. Now, you probably have used what we normally call rapid yeast. Okay, or you have maybe have seen, most bakers now use rapid yeast because it goes faster. Okay, and the bread made with rapid yeast is not very sour. Okay, what do you think that makes the sour taste on sourdough bread?
I guess it's a different kind of. I think it's the different kind of yeast that you use. It makes it sour because different. It's a different kind of yeast. Like it's got more of something or less of something, or it's just completely different. Where it's reacts differently than what normal yeast, like what people normally use, and it makes it either more sour or it makes it what we call just normal.
Normal, yeah.
So
no, for us, normal, yeah.
Yeah. So.
Jens said fermentation. Yeah. Okay. So and that is actually correct. The sour taste on sourdough bread is caused by fermentation. Let me try to explain a little bit here, Braden, and see if we can get this kind of clear. When you first put the dough, you know, you mix the water and the flour, a little bit of salt, so it tastes good, and then the yeast, okay? And then you knead it, you mix it all up, okay? You mix it and mix it and mix it, you know, for about 10 minutes until everything is really well mixed. As you are mixing, you are putting inside the dough a lot of oxygen, okay? And so at the beginning, the yeast starts, like you mentioned, it starts eating the sugars in the flour, okay, converting the carbohydrates into sugars and doing the regular process of cellular respiration because there's oxygen in the dough, okay? It's alive. And so during the first part of the rising of the bread, the yeast is actually using all the oxygen, okay? Rapid yeast is a particular type of yeast that produces a lot of carbon dioxide, okay? And so the bakers use that one many times because it can produce a lot of carbon dioxide while it's doing respiration, cellular respiration, okay? The problem is that after a while, after the yeast have used all the oxygen in the dough, there's no more oxygen, and then they have to switch. Remember that when there's no oxygen, cellular respiration stops, okay? And then they have to switch into fermentation, okay? And then the yeast have a particular process where instead of doing lactic acid fermentation, they do alcoholic fermentation. So the sour taste on sourdough bread is actually the alcohol that the yeast produce during fermentation.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
So the natural yeast.
Yeah,
Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So the natural yeast, what happens is that it takes, you know, for about 12 hours for natural yeast to produce enough carbon dioxide to rise the bread. During all that time, the natural yeast have switched from cellular respiration to alcoholic fermentation. Okay? Does that make sense?
Yeah,
the rapid yeast.
Yeah, that was a. Yeah, that was another use for yeast is to make like wine and stuff.
That's right. Yes, yes. So all the alcoholic beverages are made with yeast. Okay. So and let's see what is the process of alcoholic fermentation. Okay, let's see. Let me go.
Before the tag at the end, we still have 7 minutes.
Yes. Someone's mic, I guess, is open. I don't know. Let me see if we go here. Okay, to the process of alcoholic fermentation. All right. So in the process here of alcoholic fermentation, we have the same thing as before, that the glucose is divided into pyruvate, okay? And now the NADH in this process is going to use another enzyme and is going to break the pyruvate, okay? It's also going to give the hydrogen here that is now going to produce ethyl alcohol or ethanol. Okay, this is the alcohol, and you see that ethyl alcohol, this molecule has 2 carbons. One of the carbons is joined with 2 oxygens to produce carbon dioxide. So the process of fermentation, of alcoholic fermentation, instead of producing the lactic acid, okay, that it was, let's say, it was here, but it still had 3 carbons, it produces ethyl alcohol and carbon dioxide. And the hydrogen of the NADH is also given back to NAD plus in order to start the glycolysis process again. Okay, so that is how the alcoholic fermentation happens, and this is the main way of how different alcoholic beverages are created. Okay, that is how they are made. Okay, we use it mainly for bread, you know, all right, but that is how it happens. Maria asked a very interesting question, Braden. I don't know if you know the answer, but her question is, does yeast have other use than in food? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's it's been used to convert sugars to ethanol and to harness the biotechnology industries to produce fuel and stuff. They feed it to like sugar cane and corn and other like wheat and stuff, and then they add an acid of sulfuric acid, and it breaks it down into a bunch of sugars, and then makes ethanol.
That's right. Yes. So yeast, and also it's interesting that plants also do alcoholic fermentation. Okay. So, for example, if you have some grapes, okay, or some food that sits out there for a long time, after a couple of days, it's going to start smelling like alcohol. All right. That is not just that yeast is doing alcoholic fermentation. The plant itself, you know, even though in this case it's just the fruit of the plant, changes the sugars into alcohol. Okay. I served part of my mission in a place that it was close to a lot of sugar cane plantations. All right. And when you harvest the sugar cane, if you don't process it right away, you know, just in a couple of days, they cut the canes and then they put them in stalks, okay, all together. And if they leave them out there for a long time, just for 2 or 3 days, then it starts doing alcoholic fermentation and changing the sugars to alcohol. And then you are done. You cannot have any more sugars. All the sugars change to alcohol. All right. So it's really amazing. Okay. Excellent, Braden. Thank you very much. So
yeah, you're welcome.
Thank you. So let's see. We are going to skip here this concept number 5. We're probably going to take it next class, all right? So I'll give you more time to prepare for that. But in this class, we basically discussed the 2 different processes of fermentation, lactic acid fermentation and alcoholic fermentation. And those are the ones that are needed in order for us to continue working or producing energy when we don't have enough oxygen, okay? So that is the case here of the sprinters. It's not the case here of the marathon runners that lost control. That we are going to do it next time, okay? But Patrick, would you like to share with us the gospel principles that we have for this lesson? Maria says, I realize how amazing it is to actually study something and learn how much more there is to it. Yes, that's right. That is good. Yeah. Go ahead, Patrick.
Alrighty. Scrolling down. Give me a second. Alrighty. So then, we have two gospel principles today. I'm going to be trying to converge them both into one gospel principle. Alrighty, so the two gospel principles are, it is not requisite that a man should run faster than his strength. And number two is that all things must be done in order. Now, to me, I feel like they're pretty much the same thing because, well, one, I hate running. And I have gone running before, but you cannot just start running a marathon out of nowhere. I've gone on a Campout where we biked like a marathon and a half there and back. And it was, I didn't do a lot of prior training beforehand, but I bike a lot anyway, so it wasn't that bad. But I tell you, the way back was very, very painful. And I did not go, I went much faster than my strength, and I swear I was asleep for 3 days afterwards.
So what do you think that make you so sore?
Probably the seat pad and my legs. But if you run faster than your strength, then, well, you're not really gonna prove yourself a lot. You gotta build up to it. You can't just skip steps. That's never gonna get you anywhere. What if that thing that you're trying to do before comes up? Then what? It's important to take all the steps in the stairs. When I was little, I used to step over stairs just to see what it was like, and I fell over my face several times.
Not a good idea.
Don't fall over on your face.
Yeah, that's another example of all things must be done in order. Yeah.
So
Spencer says, don't cut corners. Yep.
Yep. So it says in Mosiah chapter 4, verse 27 that, and see that all these things are done in wisdom and order, for it is not requisite that a man should run faster than his strength, and again, it is expedient that he should be diligent, that thereby he might win the prize, therefore all things must be done in order. So don't do things out of order, because otherwise you won't win the prize.
That's right. Yes. That's right. Very, very important. Yeah. Okay. Excellent. Thank you. In the lesson, I asked a couple of questions. Do you remember the parable of the sower? Okay. Do you remember the parable of the sower?
Don't talk to me.
Yeah. So in the parable of the sower, there's some seeds. It says the seeds in stony places. Okay, and it says that the seeds in stony places they sprang up. Okay, but then they wither away because they didn't have enough root. They didn't have a lot of endurance. Okay. All right. How is that similar to sprinting, to going out, and running as fast as you can?
That Spanish guy who was running in the video you showed us looked like he was pretty withered. So, I have to say that, you have to set yourself up for success.
Yeah.
You can't just expect to go out and do all these crazy things without having any prior knowledge or training ahead of time.
Yeah. So you are probably a young man, maybe thinking and preparing on going on a mission. How does that apply? How does that apply to you as your preparation to going on a mission?
Well, I have been I am turning 15 on Sunday, and I have been doing things like the Sunday school answers, like reading my scriptures, saying my prayers, getting my patriarchal blessing soon, all that jazz.
Yes.
And I feel like I'm much more prepared than I probably was a year ago. So.
Absolutely. Very, very good. That's right. Braden says he's turning 16 on Saturday. That's awesome.
Happy birthday.
Yeah, we're having 2 birthdays this week. That's great. So, something that I remember that I did when I was your age, okay, both Braden and your age, is I tried to go out with the missionaries as much as possible. One time during my senior year, I remember one of the missionaries in my ward got sick, and so the other missionary asked me to be his companion for a whole week. All right, they couldn't. The missionaries cannot be alone. All right, and so I went and I was a missionary for a whole week with him.
Did you enjoy it?
Oh, I loved it. It was really, really fun. Very, very fun.
That sounds great.
Yeah. Very, very good preparation to go on a mission. Okay.
Did you feel prepared after you did that?
Sorry?
Did you feel prepared after you did that?
Oh, yes. Yeah. After I did that, I learned a lot more. And so when I actually went on my mission, it wasn't a big surprise or a big transition, because I had already been a missionary for a little while. I had gone out with missionaries, I had given lessons and everything, and so it
like
was
a dry
very
run.
natural. Yes, like a dry run, yes. And that is something that you certainly can do. That is kind of the type of preparation and training that we are talking about in this lesson. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, I really suggest that.
It says
so
here
Natasha says,
one of these questions here that really interests me is it said, have you ever seen someone hit the wall in the gospel and not being able to endure to the end? I feel like that's one of the classic, less active story where, you really want to be there, but you're not willing to put forth the effort to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like what they're trying to do is they're trying to start sprinting before they know how to walk. You got to take baby steps, like a baby. That's how they learn to walk.
You have to start, that's right, you have to do, and that is part of what King Mosiah says here, to do things in order, okay, not to run faster than you have strength. Pace yourself, okay. The case here of hitting the wall is when someone basically runs out of the spiritual food, all right? Every one of us could run out of the spiritual food
like
and hit the wall. That's right. If we stop going to church, if we stop reading the scriptures, or doing the little things that feed us spiritually, we would eventually run out of food, spiritual food.
Can't keep going on fumes in your gas tank forever.
That's right, yeah. So Natasha says that she got to be a missionary for a day. That is awesome. That is really good. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So next lesson we are going. Thank you very, very much, Patrick. I really appreciate that. So and she even had a sleepover with that. That is great. Yeah, I had to also be in the apartment with my companion for the whole week. Okay. So next lesson we are going to talk about this other academic concept, number 5, because it's very important to understand for all of us that we have to not only we process glucose, but there are other things that can give us energy, okay? And that is what this concept is going to study, okay? So with that, Jacob, would you like to offer the closing prayer for us?
Okay. Our dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day. Thank you for all the many things we've learned today about our bodies and their capability to produce energy. We ask that please bless us to be able to retain this knowledge and remember and be able to use it throughout our lives. And we ask that please bless us that we can continue to learn and grow, and we say these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Thank you very much.